A girl named Anya emailed me and she said that she had a sugar daddy who asked her for a very strange favor. And she lives in Miami, but she's not from the US originally. And she's had sugar daddies before. She's had 3 long-term ones. And she said most of the time they're just older gentlemen who want dinner dates or company or who are just lonely. And she said that none of these relationships have ever been physical. She kind of knows what's expected of her. And even though this isn't a career thing, it's a way for her to make extra money. So she meets her 3rd sugar daddy in 2022, and he's the same as the other guys. He's in his 60s. His name is Raymond. She meets him on some app or website. I'm not sure which one, but basically he asks her out to dinner. She goes. They talk a little bit. It's like lighthearted conversation, and she gets the feeling that he's like missing someone. Like she assumes that he's a widower, but he's very wealthy. He tells her he enjoys her company and he wants to continue seeing her, and she's like, I'm down. He has a boat he takes her on sometimes. She takes some trips with him, but she said the relationship actually felt like she was his daughter. Like he never touched her. He never tried to like be physical with her. Whereas the other 2 sugar daddy relationships she had were seemingly based on attraction. And Raymond takes care of her. Anytime she needs something, she hits him up. She's like, hey, I want to get my nails done. He sends her money. She's like, hey, I want to get this bag. He sends her money. Even when she doesn't see him for a while, he checks up on her and he's like, hey, are you doing okay? Do you need me to send you anything? And sometimes she asks, sometimes she says no. She said at this point, it was an ideal setup. And she has some other friends who do this, and they were asking her even like, does he have any friends? One night he takes her to a restaurant that's a lot nicer than the normal restaurants they go to, even though most of them are nice anyway. And he says basically, hey, do you want to make some extra money? I have a favor to ask of you. She's like, okay, I'm listening. And he's like, I want you to go with me to see my mother. She's in a nursing home. She's wheelchair bound. She's very old, but I just want her to know that I'm doing okay and I'm with someone. He's like, I'll double your normal rate for our date. And basically, I just want you to go with me and sit with me. Keep in mind, Raymond has always been very respectful, very polite, and he's not asking anything that weird of her. Like, it's a strange request, but there's worse things that men have asked of her. So she's like, yeah, of course I'll go with you to see your mom. So the pair goes to this care facility, and the visit goes how you would expect. The woman is extremely old. She's wheelchair bound. Her eyes are glossy. She doesn't seem to know what's going on, and she's completely nonverbal. Raymond sits down. He's talking to his mother. Her name is Elaine, and he's like patting her hair and brushing her hair. And he said, I just want you to meet my friend Anya. They spend about an hour there and then they leave. And she's like, that was pleasant. And he says, yeah, I really appreciate you going with me. And he says, do you want to make some more money? And she says, okay, I'm listening. He says, well, I'm really busy with work. Apparently he ran a few successful businesses. And he says, I don't always have the time to go. Would you mind going once a week and just sitting with her for an hour and reading to her, brushing her hair, just taking care of her, making sure that she's taken care of there? And Anya's like, well, sure. Like, I don't mind. I'll do it. Again, a strange request, but nothing that she's completely uncomfortable with. So the next week, Raymond hits her up and he's like, do you remember what we talked about? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, are you free to go tomorrow? And she's like, yeah, I can go. So she goes, and the nurses seem confused when she checks in, but she sits with her. She brushes her hair. She holds her hand. She reads to her. Anya said she had like imposter syndrome. She felt like she wasn't supposed to be there, but also like she was getting paid. And it wasn't like the woman really had any idea of what was going on anyway. So she did the visit, the check cleared, and the visits continue over the weeks. After 3 or 4 visits, Raymond checks in with her and he's like, how's everything going? And she's like, she's there. She seems well taken care of. And he's like, okay, well, I have some things I want you to read to her. And Anya's thinking he's talking about specific books or something, but then he gives her some scripts and he says, read these to her the next time you go. Anya's like, sure, whatever you want, man. And she goes and she reads the scripts, but they're like letters written from Raymond to Elaine. And they're very deep and very personal. They say things like, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you and you were right about everything. One of the scripts even ends in a question that says, I'm sorry for everything that happened between us. Do you forgive me? And as Anya's reading these out loud, she's like, what is he wanting from this? Like, it's not him saying these words to her. It's me. She doesn't even know what's going on. Go on, she's reading these letters and they're getting more and more personal with like deep family rooted issues and things like that. And one day, one of the nurse comes over and pulls her aside and says, are you? She had, of course, checked in as a visitor for Elaine, but hadn't specified, I guess, their relationship. And this is an upscale facility. It wasn't a bare bones nursing home. And so Anya says, no, I'm not family. I'm a friend of her son's. And the nurse looks at her confused and says, that man isn't her son. We always assumed that he was a paid companion, which is, I guess, a thing that happens at nursing homes sometimes for wealthy elderly people. And she asks the nurse, like, well, if he's not her son, like, who is he? And the nurse says, well, we always assumed that, he was the paid companion or that he was like a friend of her son's, but actually her real son died years ago. No real legal relationship to this. And this freaks Anya out. She's like, I'm just playing a part in some weird guilt-ridden fantasy. And she ends the visit. She stops answering Raymond's calls. He stops sending her money when he realizes she's not going to respond to him or go back to the home. Raymond never knew where she lived, so she was safe on that front. But a few weeks go by, she doesn't hear from him after she stops going and stops answering his calls, and she gets one final text from him, which says, I understand you don't have to go anymore. She's gone anyway. He also says, thank you for your kindness and helping me care for my mother in her final days. She never let on that she found out that it wasn't actually his mother. But she did know that the nursing home knew him, like he had been visiting this woman for years. So a few months go by, she's out to dinner with some girlfriends. One of them asks, like, oh, how's Raymond doing? And she's like, oh, this ended so weird, I have to tell you. So she tells them, they're like, what? She's like, yeah, actually, I kind of miss him. Like, he was really nice. He never really wanted that much from me. And he was pretty attractive for an older guy. And her friends are like, oh, show us a picture. And she still has his name, or like, she knows how to find one of his pictures on like a social media profile. So she pulls it up, like to show them what he looks like. And she sees that there's a public post and it's him with this young girl, obviously a new sugar baby. And they're in the nursing home. And the caption says something along the lines of like, visiting my mother with so-and-so, his new girlfriend or sugar baby or whatever. Thank you so much to this angel for helping me out with her in her golden years. But the photo of the two of them is with this woman who is not Elaine. It's a different elderly woman in a nursing home. So Anya's like, what? Never found out what this dude's deal was. So is he just like scamming elderly women in nursing homes? Does he have some weird interest in like guilt shaming? Like what is this? She said she shared this story because she's genuinely curious what other people think this dude is up to. And if you're a sugar baby in Miami and you match with a guy named Raymond and he asks you to visit his mother in a nursing home, it's not his mother. A woman named Chalice emailed me and she was like, I literally watched this guy that I was dating shapeshift in the middle of doing the deed into his true form, which was a lizard person. They met in kindergarten but did not reconnect until years and years later after she was divorced. But the reason that she remembered him from kindergarten is because they were friends. They went to like a pretty much all white school and he was of a different race and she was nice to him. So they were friends. Everybody else kind of bullied him. They go through all grade school together. They end up going to different high schools, moving away from each other, whatever. She ends up in Seattle. He ends up in California and he pops into her messenger one day, hits her up. He's like, hey, I remember you from all these years ago. He's like, I never forgot how nice you were when we were kids, like blah, blah, blah. So they start talking and she's into him. He's like really tall. He's really handsome. She's divorced. She's got kids that are kind of grown. Like she's like, whatever, I'm gonna try it out. After talking for a while, he suggested they spend Thanksgiving together. And she's like, well, I have a huge house. You can come stay in my guest room. He's like, bet. He gets there. He's supposed to stay for 3 days. But even her kids were like, Mom, this guy has like a spell over you. And she said in retrospect, after seeing what she saw, it makes sense because after her divorce, she was married to like this really narcissistic, controlling man. She was always trying to please him. And after their divorce, she was like, I'm never letting a man tell me what to do. So after the 3 days is up, this guy just doesn't want to leave. And she's like, okay, you can just stay longer. It's fine. They had not hooked up yet. She said she kind of wanted her space back, but also she was happy to have him there. But she just felt powerless to tell him to leave. But I guess he ends up staying for like an entire month and finally they hook up. When they do, she said she felt claws digging into her back and she was like, this doesn't feel like fingernails. She looks at him and they have a candle going, okay, so it's kind of dim, but she sees like his chest widening. She said his eyes were switching, like they were turning yellow. And she said his face started to morph into that of like a lizard. I don't think you're allowed to say the actual word that she's saying in these videos. So anyway, she pulls away in absolute disgust. She's like freaking out. She's like, what is going on? She said she didn't drink. She didn't take anything. He just turned into this completely different creature and he's sitting on the end of the bed and he morphs back into his human form. She's freaking out, pulling her clothes on, trying to run out of the room and he's laughing. She runs out of the room. She's in the other room trying to like call somebody. He comes out of the room and she's like, you just shapeshifted, and he does not deny it. She left her house, has to call other people to vacate him from the house. He didn't leave for another 2 days, in which she refused to go back. And after he was forcefully removed from her house, she said she felt drained. In her words, it was as if the life force was drained from her. She said it's been 5 years. She has refused to get into another relationship. She has since blocked him on all platforms. She has no idea what he's up to, but she refuses to trust anyone. She said, I absolutely know these things are real. I don't care if anyone thinks I'm crazy. And these creatures, these beings, will adulterate any kind of relationship they can, even a childhood friendship, in order to get in. I don't know. This is like the second or third story I've gotten about these types of beings, so let me know what you think. If you have a spooky scary story time, I would love to read it. If you're new here, I post a new story almost every single day.
This is one of the scariest Reddit stories I've ever read, and it comes from the subreddit r/no-sleep. The previous tenant of my flat left a survival guide, and I'm not sure I want to live here anymore. I moved in with my boyfriend yesterday. We've been together for 5 years now, and we decided to settle down and finally leave our parents' houses. We just turned 24 and 22. He's the love of my life. His name is Jamie. When we decided to make the leap, we spent 2 months looking for flats and houses, and we couldn't find anything affordable to buy, so we decided renting was our only option, but the prices were astronomical. For our budget, we would have been lucky to get a box with a stove. Jamie works for a local 24-hour fast food restaurant, and I'm training to be a teacher. The early stages of training don't pay much, and I owe a lot in student loans, so finances are tight. We had almost given up hope until we found our flat. It was nothing special, but to us, it was a palace. A spacious 2-bedroom apartment with views of a city park, a balcony, local conveniences. It was in a tower block in a not-so-nice area, but neither of us had grown up wealthy, so we weren't fussy, just grateful to be together. The advert was sweetened by the deposit-free option and open-ended tenancy. The landlord was happy to sign a 5-year contract if we wanted, and we were told that along with no deposit, we would also have no inspections, but would be liable to pay for any damages when we ended our tenancy. I'd never heard of anything quite like it. We knew for our budget and location, we weren't going to get any better. We snapped the place up fast, not even bothering to view it, and it felt like our only choice. Move-in day rolled around quickly, and yesterday we got the keys to our first home together. It was such a strange feeling. The day was chaos, getting our stuff in and up in the lift. We were on the 7th floor. The items that we couldn't get in the lift had to be taken up all of the stairs by the movers. I wish we would have been able to tip them better. In the evening, we settled down on our secondhand sofa given to us by a friend and watched some TV. We smoked cigarettes on the balcony looking at the park and fell asleep on our mattress on a floor super early because we had no energy to put the bed together yet, and Jamie had to work at a hideous time of the morning. We slept soundly last night. I felt safe and happy. I don't think that feeling is coming back anytime soon though, and it's all due to a note that I found this morning. I found it in the kitchen, having coffee hours after Jamie had left for his early shift at work. It was in one of the cupboards that were fixed to the wall along with some other useful items from the previous tenant. The note was handwritten with "New occupier of flat 42" in beautiful cursive on the blank side. I opened it up and sat down to read. I can't really describe it to you, so I'm going to copy it out below. Dear new occupier, firstly, welcome to your new home. I lived here before you for 35 years with my husband. Unfortunately, we had an incident at home recently that I'd rather not discuss that claimed his life. My sister has now decided that I can't keep up with the demands of the property and has insisted that I move in with her and her husband. Anyway, when you've lived here for as long as I have, it feels like a person that you know. You understand its personality and what makes it tick. I thought it was probably pertinent that I impart some information and some knowledge on you. It's a wonderful home. I have lived through the best and worst years, and leaving it behind is very emotional, but if you are to survive and get the best out of it, then there are some steps that you need to follow. 1. The landlord will never bother you. He doesn't visit, call, or communicate in any way, but make sure you pay your rent in a timely fashion always. I've only dealt with him once in 35 years, and let's just say I never missed another day of rent. Any repairs required, you have to speak to the rental agent. 2. Do not use the communal lift between 1:11 and 3:33 a.m. Just don't do it. This step is vital if you are to be happy and have a life here. It really is life or death. This has cost me and many others in the building greatly, and I would rather not elaborate on why, but you just shouldn't do this. I cannot stress this enough. 3. When you hear the strange animal noises coming from flat 48, don't question it. Mr. Prentice lives there, and he's really a lovely chap. Don't be afraid to say hello to him in the corridor or on the stairs. He is old school and he never risks the lift. But whatever you do, don't check on him when you hear the noises. 4. If you ever come across a window cleaner on the balcony, ignore him. He may seem like the nicest fellow you've ever met at the door, but it really is in your best interest to not engage. He will go away if you ignore him, but he tries pretty hard the first few times, so you'll need some resilience. Whatever you do, don't offer him anything. No money and no hot drink. 5. Don't leave food scraps out. Bin or refrigerate them immediately. If you have small animals, it is imperative that you watch them eat and take away any leftover food immediately after they are done. This and rule number 2 go hand in hand. The things forage all day and seem to really love animal feed. You don't want them in your flat. You can leave whatever you want out between 1:11 and 3:33 a.m., so you may want to feed your pets then. 6. Don't communicate with any neighbors who claim to come from flats 65 through 72. These flats suffered a fire in the late 80s that devastated the whole floor, and all the residents passed in their homes. The building was mostly council-owned at the time, and they never bothered to renovate the flats. They've been empty ever since, but every now and again, someone will knock at your door claiming to live in one of these flats and ask to borrow some sugar. They will seem entirely average, but you must shut and lock the door immediately. I installed 2 extra security bolts to avoid them. 7. Simple one for you here. Keep a weapon in each room. Sometimes you follow all of these steps and something still slips through the net. It's better to be safe than sorry. 8. Stray hairless cats sometimes roam in the hallway. I know they're supposedly a special expensive breed, but they don't belong to anyone. They're mostly harmless, but don't pick them up. Not unless you see one of these neighbors that claims to live in 65 through 72. Then grab the cat and lock it inside with you. It'll burn your skin a little, but the cats are very friendly. 9. There is no way to fix the damp patch in the ceiling in the bedroom. Sometimes it will turn a dark crimson and look quite concerning, but please try not to be alarmed. It doesn't drip, it doesn't get any bigger, and it's been there longer than I have. The landlord won't budge on it, according to the agents. I flagged it many times and even called the police the first night it changed color, but it was a waste of time and it will be for you too, so just ignore it. 10. You can trust the postman. His name is Ian Flanders, and he's been the postman since before I moved in. He has his own key to the main door and delivers post to the door every morning at 8:54. I can't include everything here or it would become a novel, but if you have questions, you can ask Ian. 11. Finally, the first few weeks are the worst. You'll feel like you've made a mistake. I'm sure reading this you probably already do, but if you can get through the first few weeks, it really is a lovely block to live in. You can be truly happy here if you just take my advice. I wish you all the best. I really do. Yours truly, Mrs. Prudence Hemmings. I don't really know what to think after reading that note. Hopefully it was some sort of joke, but the agent had said the previous tenant was an elderly lady, and I can't see anyone named Prudence Hemmings playing a practical joke on someone they've never even met. There were also parts of the note I couldn't disprove. There was indeed a large damp patch above the bed that me and Jamie had already discussed reporting. No crimson, but it definitely existed. I also commented on a beautiful Sphinx cat that was roaming the halls as we were moving in. I started to get seriously freaked out. Our dream, our new home, had just become a source of fear and confusion. I checked the time and it was 9:14. Damn it. Out of time to catch postman Ian. When I opened the door to check, sure enough, 2 letters were addressed to Mrs. Hemmings set on the doorstep. At about 11:15, my worst fears were truly confirmed when a friendly middle-aged man carrying window cleaning equipment knocked on the balcony door. I ignored him. I didn't want to take the risk until I'd spoken to Jamie and showed him the note. I texted him already to rush home. I felt bad as the man ripped his knuckles against the door for over 10 minutes, but honestly, the longer it went on, the more terrified I got. My windows were sparkling, and due to our lack of curtains, I couldn't even hide from his gaze. I felt so exposed. He stayed there for a total of 30 minutes exactly, and never once did he stop looking at me or knocking. He shouted the occasional ultra-friendly line or humble request for a beverage in the heat through the door, but I did my best to avoid eye contact. When he finally left, I looked outside every window in the flat, but I couldn't see him on any of the other balconies. He had vanished completely. Jamie still hasn't texted me back. He must have been going through a rough shift. It was Friday and they were always busy. It wasn't often that he didn't reply. He was due home in around an hour anyways. I read the note probably hundreds of times. I tortured myself reading this note over the next hour, desperately waiting for Jamie to come through the door to tell me that it was all crazy and I should relax. But Jamie never came. His shift would have finished around midday, but by 2 p.m. he still wasn't home. I panicked, I cried, I left over 100 voicemails on his phone. I finally decided it had been long enough to call his work without embarrassing him, and his boss told me he never showed up for work. I thought about it, what could have happened, and then it hit me. Jamie's shift started at 4 a.m. today. He would have left the flat at 3:15 and taken the lift down the stairs. I don't know what to do. I've tried to convince myself it's all a big joke, but that seems unlikely. It's getting late and he still hasn't come home. What if it's all true? I think we made a big mistake. This story does have a follow-up, so if you enjoyed this, comment for part 2.
Y'all have been asking for another spooky, scary dating story time, and I got one about this girl who dated this man who is dangerous, to say the least, and I am going to show you who he is at the end of this video. But she said for a while she's wanted to post a story on her own account, but because of where she lives and they know some of the same people, she's worried that he's going to see it and find out about it, so it's just better to have me do it. Back in 2020, this girl I'm going to call Bree moves from Colorado to Miami. She starts going out right away. She's freshly 21. She's ready to party. In April of that year, she's out with some friends celebrating a birthday. They're at a bar. They're having drinks. She makes eyes with this guy across the bar. He keeps looking at her. She keeps looking at him. He was older, well-dressed. She described him as an unk, which is what she's into, and he gets up to leave. Before he leaves, she waves at him and she's like, I saw you looking at me. You're not going to come over and say hi. So he comes over to the table. They exchange numbers and he leaves. At that point, her friend's boyfriend says, I think he looks familiar, but they can't figure out where they've seen him before. They text and call for a couple weeks. Eventually they go on a date, and she said the conversation was good, but she noticed a couple red flags right away, which was, first thing was he said that he stayed in a few different cities, Las Vegas, Miami, and another city in California, which she didn't name. He tells her he has a daughter, not necessarily a red flag, but he also tells her that he had some questionable jobs in the past. I don't think I'm allowed to say the word here, but think of the word that starts with a P, ends in a P. It's 4 letters, and there's 2 letters in between, P and P. Somebody that collects money from women who are accountants. She's like, wait, what, you did that for work? And he was like, well, no, but it was like that. And he also mentions that he has some legal issues because of that job and during that time, but it was nothing major and not to worry about it because it was all in the past now. She said, don't judge her here. Her taste in men is better now, but she was young and she was dumb and she just didn't know any better. And she was just like into him. He was like bad boy type, but older, grown out of it. She actually told one of her friends that she was going on this date and she had her location shared with her. So she's like, oh, come to the bar, sit there incognito, and then when the date ends, me and you will go out. So she tells her date she has plans after the date, but for some reason her friend bails, can't make it, so she ends up hanging out with this guy after the dinner ends. Dinner ends, they had driven separately, so he's like, where do you want to go? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, do you want to go to this script club? Like, we'll just have some more drinks there. And she's like, okay. So she gets there first. She texts him. She's like, where are you at? I just parked. He's like, oh, change of plans. It's too busy and I know some people there, so let's go somewhere else. He has her meet him in Brickell. I don't know if that's an area or like a neighborhood, but it's spelled Brickell. They go to another bar, they drink, they dance. They have a good time. The night ends. She convinces him to get on a scooter. They end up riding them around till like 4 or 5 in the morning. Like, they're having a really good time. I'm going to show you a clip of this video she sent me. Obviously, the energy is good at this point.
I got this man's riding the scooters and shit right now.
Once they get off the scooters around 5 a.m., he's like, come back to my place with me. He points to a condo building where they can see from where they're standing. He's like, I live right there. Come back with me. He asked her like 3 or 4 times. She's like, no, I have work in the morning. I don't have any clothes with me. He's very persistent. He's like, no, come back with me. Come back with me. It'll be fun. We can continue the night. She's like, no, I can't tonight. So he just gives up after he asked her like 4 or 5 times. He's like, all right, fine, whatever. Like, gives her a hug. They go their separate ways. Next day at work, she has this nagging feeling that she needs to look him up because she has his number. So she plugs it into Google and tries to find everything about him, including his government name, because apparently he had a nickname at this point. When I tell you my jaw dropped when I saw what she found, I had to block out some stuff from this article because of, I can't say what he actually did, but you should look that article up. It's insane, the things that he did and was accused of. All the charges were eventually dropped. She thinks because he intimidated some of the girls that accused him of certain things so bad that they were too scared to go to their court dates. So she's at work when she finds this article and she tells her coworker about it. And her coworker is older and wiser and basically tells her, okay, don't tell him that you found this article. Just like do the slow fade, like stop responding to his text right away. Just act disinterested. And she does. And eventually he just leaves her alone until about a month later, she's out with some friends. She's at a club. She has like this unknown number calling her. So she answers and it's him. So she immediately just hangs up and blocks the number. She said she believes that her guardian angels or spirit guides were looking out for her that night because she feels like it was planned, that he told her to go to one place and then all of a sudden he couldn't go there and then took her back to a bar in his area. But she said basically she was just sharing this because she wants people to know who he is and what he's capable of, especially if you live in Miami or the surrounding area. She said bad things do and can happen, and just always be on guard when you're talking to a literal stranger because something bad could have happened if she went back to his condo with him that night. Although her name has been changed, she'll be reading the comments, so let me know if you have any thoughts. Let her know if you have any thoughts, and keep sending me your spooky, scary stories.
Somebody submitted a spooky story saying, stay away from these celebrities because this person slept with a pop star. He is convinced that that girl was not human. This is a pretty popular up-and-coming pop singer. I'm not gonna say too much, but Damien said that he never believed in any of that supernatural stuff. So like spirits and demons, none of it. That was before he slept with this pop star. So Damien himself is an influencer. Damien met her at an after party in LA. And at the event, they just kind of made eye contact. And it seems like she locked in on Damien specifically. Like she already knew his name. They were chopping it up, things were cool. There was something really alluring about her. I mean, duh, she's a pop star. The least you would expect them to be is charismatic, but no. No, when this girl stared at him, it seemed like she was directly staring into his soul. Anyway, she invited him back to her place that same night. There was no security issues and no entourage stopped them. Now, he was pretty drunk. He says if you know anything about how these after parties in LA get, he remembers thinking that this is strange. But again, he's drunk, so he just ignores it and goes with it. If anything, he was pretty lucky. When he gets to her house wasn't normal at all. No pictures of family. This person also had no mirrors in their house. And the air itself felt heavy. Something about her felt different too. Like when she was looking at him, it didn't feel like attraction. Now they got to doing it. This might be a lot of information, but she didn't want to use protection. He admits that when they finally got into it, it was really good. But there were certain things that happened during the interaction that seemed a little off. He could have sworn like during her voice changed. Her voice sounded layered at some point. And she was adamant about taking deep eye contact during breathing together. This was very intimate for a stranger. Yes, she's a pop star, but they don't know each other. He remembers both of them having this orgasmic experience. He fell asleep. He had the weirdest dream. In his dream, it was a bunch of creatures in her house crawling to him. These creatures were dressed in red and their eyes were black. In the dream, she wasn't laying next to him. These creatures appeared to try to get something from him. It's as though he was being robbed, but he didn't have anything physical on him. Anyway, he woke up from the dream, and it's the next day, and homegirl basically tells him that it's time for him to go. She ordered him a car, he took the back exit, and he left. He said the entire ride back, he felt so drained in this level of anxiety. Well, a couple of days passed, and he's like, wow, he can't believe that happened. But one thing that he started to notice, that he had a lot of plants in his house, and they all just started to wither and die, one by one. Now, this is the part of the story where you might judge him, but his girlfriend started acting weird toward him because, yes, he had a girlfriend. They hooked up after the girlfriend got really sick. Now, this story is going on too long. So much happened in his life and everything turned upside down. Would lead him to believe that the pop star was a succubus. If you want to hear part 2, go ahead and leave a comment.